G'day guys and welcome to the GameDay Squad Aussie Rules Fantasy Show. I'm Pitty and alongside Haz, we are the Fantasy Bros. We've partnered with GameDay Squad this season to bring you everything you need to know to succeed in GDS Aussie Rules. And we'll have, I think he's just joined us here as well, our guest to help us preview a big round 13, which is the second of our bye rounds, in fact. It is Bails from the AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Bails, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. Just in the nick of time. For some reason, the link wasn't. It was just like it just said Discord was, or like Restream was just saying, "Yep, we're loading," and I'm just like, "Okay, we're about to start. Hurry up and load," and finally did. So apologies, you've been 30 seconds too late, but yeah, going well, mate. Looking forward to another round of footy. It's always interesting when you're putting in the players during the buys. You sort of put in a Lockie Whitfield even this week. And you go, "Oh, hang on, he's not playing this week," so you got to take him. You got to take him back out. So it's always interesting during these buys.
It is for sure, mate. And there's a lot to unpack as well, given, the week that's been. And yeah, there's some big name players on this round as well. So we're going to have to keep an eye out for that. But before we jump into previewing all of that good action as well, just to all of our listeners and viewers as well, make sure you've subscribed across all of the Fantasy Bros socials. You can find us on TikTok, Facebook, Insta, YouTube, everything. So that's at Fantasy Bros AU. Give us a like, give us a follow. And don't forget, new coaches, use that code on screen, that promo code, FBAR26. Get yourself 3 9-player common packs just for doing so. And make sure you've got around that as well. Now, Bales, let's see how we went, mate. Around the grounds before we get stuck in big round 30, we've said. Do you want to talk us through quickly in round 12? It was a bit of a funny week, though, wasn't it? There were some injuries and some poor scores, but there were a few big scores you also didn't want to miss out on. Talk us through how you went around the grounds.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. We'll move on to that. It's no, you should have got me on last week, the week before, because I came first in Contender and third in Classic. So I was loving life. It was good, but last week came 91st in both Classic and Contender. So it was a bit of a shame. I was up to third in Classic as well, but now it's to 13th, so I lost 10 spots. So considering I was near the 100, I lost 10 spots. So it is. I've said it's quite close in Classic actually, from like 5th or 6th to right up to 20th. So yeah, not great. Best finish though. I did have a top 20 week at least. So I came 14th in the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown. So it's at least you got me on obviously the FantasyBros show, and I did best in the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown. So at least that's something there. So not particularly too great with the other comps, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's rough, and we'll unpack a few of those players in a sec that might have let you down there, mate. But don't forget, as you said, first in Contender the week before and a third in Classic too. So that was a really good week for you. And it seems to happen that way, doesn't it? You sort of have one really good week and then you come crashing back down to earth the next. And yeah, it's very hard to be consistently at the top, isn't it? But Haz and I, mate, we had a bit of an indifferent week again as well. Best finish for Haz there. He was, that's me. I was 4th in 22s there. For me, that was my best finish. 13th in Contender there as well. So solid in those two. And then probably just average across Classic and Challenger, just outside the top 20. So take that, not too bad. But you know what? My theme for the week was I should have trusted my gut a lot more than what I did. I was keen on an Ed Richards. And I played a Lockie Neal. I was like, he should be good. I don't love the matchup, but I'm going to play him. Should have gone Richards over Neal. I was keen on a Buderick or a Sanders against the Pies. But no, I chose Brian Myers. I was like, he's safe there at F7. I thought, I'll go with the name. I'll go with Brian Myers. Should be good against the Blues. And he wasn't. We'll talk about that scar in a second there for Haz.
Yeah.
And a Charlie Curnow, I was like, he's going to kick a bag. I actually put in the Discord, I think, for Game Day Tom, I said, surely Charlie's going to kick 10 for him. And he wasn't far off that too. I should have gone there, but it was a bit spicy. Chad Warner, I flagged him as a pod. I should have just really gone all out last week, and I didn't. So we're on to next week regardless. And Haz, he had his 5th in under 22s. For him, he was right behind me there. That was his best finish, and he was 14th in Challenger. But more importantly for Haz, he's now top 20 in all 3 standard competitions that he's playing. So he's pretty happy with that, especially given his Contender team's pretty much just a pod side. So yeah, big shout out to Haz. He's going really well. But let's get off our chest. Who let you down?
Sorry, how many points were separating you and Haz in the under 22s? Do you know?
22s. I've got it right here, actually. It was, not much, like 3 points. Yeah, right. 2,539 for me and 2,537 for Haz. So we were right there. And different teams too. Very different teams, very different salary. But somehow ended up really close to each other. So it just looks like we pick each other teams, I think.
Yeah.
But mate, who?
Oh, how much time we got? There's a few names, unfortunately, that went bad. It was mainly the defense. That it was a week where I identified a few good matchups that I like the look of. So like Bailey Dale against Collingwood was okay, but a little bit underwhelming. Carl Amon, was it who they play? St Kilda.
Yeah.
Didn't get it done. He started well, looked great, and I was thinking, here we go. But and then Nick Blakey as well. Like it doesn't help when he sits 10 minutes or so of the game.
Yeah. With Heaney.
With the early injury, I think that obviously I will give the Scar like an absolute dud score this week. So I think I just missed out on the ceilings. I'll give it to. It's probably harsh. I'll give it to Bont because I put the platinum on him and he just got a low 100. And I was hoping that was a game against Collingwood. He was going to go well. It was a good game of footy. Like a few other guys did pretty well, but he just didn't get it done. So I think I'll give it to Bont purely because I put the extra salary on him and he just didn't get it done for me.
Yeah, that's a very fair call. And if you're in the chat as well, just make sure you drop a comment. Who was your star? Who was your scar for the week? Who let your squad down? And who are you keen to clear pretty quickly? I think for Haz there on screen, we've mentioned him already, but Brian Myers, just disappointing. Didn't seem to have access to his marking game that he normally has or what we typically expect of a Brian Myers. And it was, it's a difficult matchup now against the Blues, mate, that resurgent blue outfit. And it's something we might want to keep in mind just sort of moving forward. I've got a bit of a new rule moving forward. I don't want to target too many players coming up against the Dockers or the Blues, along with a few of those other tricky teams. So that's kind of something we'll talk about as we go and preview a few lines and what that might mean for players this week. And a Justin McInerney for me, I can't stand Justin McInerney. Seriously, I know we don't normally give the scar to blokes who get injured, but just let me unload for a second because he deserves it. He's a fraud, full stop. He's a fraud. We were playing against the Tigers. I expect more. He was not tracking well before that. Not even 40 near halftime. I don't like if he's rolled his ankle. I'm disappointed about the effort to get there. And mate, just while I'm at it, I think he needs to take a few tips from his partner Laura Gardner because she dominates. If she was in a good matchup, she'd go 200 plus.
Yes,
so disappointed. Exactly. I cannot seem to pick a Justin McInerney this year for those ceiling scores that he has put up.
And it's a fair
on there as well, made our stars.
Oh, sorry, no, you paused. It paused on my screen, so I thought you stopped. So apologies. That was the
good
restream playing silly buggers on me. No, but it's fair enough to give him the scar as well because, as you said, he got injured, but he was spudding it up before that. At least Flanders was actually going all right, and and unfortunately got injured. So it's just more disappointing. But fair scar to put in there. I had him as well. Yeah. I did see him on the screen, so I thought, no, I'll leave him for you to talk about him. But disappointing, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. And again, unloaded a little bit there, but we had Flanders injured, so that score's dropping off. And then you get hit with the McInerney injury. Brian Myers gives us a 70 odd. So it was a tough week down in the forward line for us, funnily enough. And then obviously, you said you didn't play a Whitfield. We did play a Whitfield. And I actually put salary on him. I don't know. It's just the way it kind of worked out for me in the end. Just making a few late changes with some decisions that happened. In the week, we had that decision with Grundy, for example. He was going to be managed, so it changed where I was going in the ruck. And then I wasn't wanting to put salary on a Darcy Cameron just yet. So, it meant that I put some salary on Whitfield, and it was tracking for a really poor score. But, a player like Whitfield, it's that last quarter. Hey, it would have been, I don't know the exact numbers for GDS.
Right, so I'll give you the exact stats here. So he had 13 disposals, 11 kicks with 7 marks. So that would have equated to a score of 69 points in the last quarter, and that was with sitting off the last 5 minutes of the game as well. And he already had his bench because it's funny, right? I've heard this on other pods and stuff, and I've thought the same thing. Right, when we own specific players, we know when their bench rotations are. Like we know when they're going off, when they're coming on. Like Whitfield always goes off after about the first rotation of the quarter. Or it's always 5 minutes in the quarter, he goes off. He did that, and I thought, okay, cool, he's going to get... And I saw him junking up, and I'm like, oh, my God, this could be like a 70, 80, 90-point GDS quarter here. And then he went on the bench for 5 minutes, which you understand because he had the hamstring stuff the week before, but it's just like, mate, that could have been an absolute that could have been the biggest quarter of the season from any play. Oh, it would have been probably top 10 or 15, but it would have been the best quarter of anyone. But hey, that's what, as you said, that's what these good players do. They're struggling, but they somehow get to a good score.
Yep, and if you leave him out, it can absolutely torch you in the end. And we've obviously got Jordan Degoe there on screen as a star, mate, but we might even talk a bit more about him when we get to the forwards tonight, because he'll pop up again, no doubt there. But if we start looking ahead to those fixtures for round 3 bye round,
do you want to give my star at all? Do you want me to give my star player?
Oh, did I not get your star? Did I just get your scar?
No. Yeah, you just got my scar, yeah.
Mate, I apologise. I got carried away with Justin McInerney there. I was just unloading and then I got caught
your eyes, you saw red and you just all saw straight like, I just want to unleash on Justin McInerney.
And then I got thinking about how good Laura Gardner is. But anyway, continue.
Yeah, exactly. I'll give my star. There's probably like special mention to obviously Haz's man that he had up there, Jordan Degoe, who I've been keen on. I've had him for a couple of weeks now in my GameDay Squad. He's been absolutely getting it done. And also shout out to Riley Sanders as well. He had a pretty good, I think it was like a 120 there, and that was a good score from him. I think it was a little bit more of a pod. I don't think he was highly staked. That was nice. But I think I've got to give it to Isaac Heaney. I didn't bring him in other formats, which I was a little bit disappointed with, but in GameDay Squad, I did. Had a gold in my classic side, and boy, oh boy, did he go absolutely massive with 195 points for a bronze, but 234 points for the gold. Absolutely huge. Was it? You can't get much better when you get 32 disposals, 7 marks, 7 tackles, 5 goals. That's why we talk about these midfielders they're built different. Like they can put up these monsters like Bailey Smith, Nick Dacos, Isaac Heaney, Jordan Dawson, Errol when he's there. Isaac Heaney, obviously, as we said there. Like Bont normally when he's up and going can do that. So that some of these mids can just get these absolutely monster scores.
It's a good point you raised too, because that's one of the things I'm struggling with this week is that when picking the midfield, there's actually a few matchups that I don't really like. Like they're up against teams I don't normally like to target. So I'm in a bit of a difficult situation here where I go, how much do I rely on these guys to fill out my side? And then how much do I try and follow those other picks I really like too, where I'm looking at the matchup and the role, and maybe somebody we'll talk about later who could be missing this weekend and it has implications for somebody else. And these are the things I'm currently weighing up that we might answer tonight. But, in Isaac Heaney, for example, like you said, I ended up playing his Platinum in Classic, which was, incredible. I normally miss my Platinums. And, had also 195 base points, you said, 254 for the Platinum, which was just huge, insane. So a couple of those guys, like a Brian Myers, who was disappointing for me, and a Justin McInerney, when you have Heaney doing that with a Platinum, giving out a 254, you got Jordan Degoe in the forward line as well doing that, kind of balanced out in the end. So it was not a bad week all in all, thankfully. But mate, those matchups there on screen, as you can see, there's some interesting matchups this week. There's not too many that were standing out to me initially when I was looking at them. We've got, in terms of our Stats Lab primetime fixtures, the night game, it's your boys there up against the Geelong Cats at the Adelaide Oval. You going along to that?
Yep, I'll be there.
Yeah, cheer on the boys. That'll be a cracking game too.
Couple of big games. Yeah. Primetime.
Yeah, and lots of relevant players too that you can be picking from to build those primetime teams. And we've obviously got, the Friday night there, the Hawks against the Western Bulldogs. That's at the MCG. I would have thought that would have been at Marvel, but MCG it is. And then Saturday, 6th of June, the Saturday slate, we have our North Melbourne Kangaroos up against the Freo Dockers, and that's going to be over in Perth. That's part of those home games they're playing over there. Just keep that in mind. The Gold Coast Suns are playing against the Lions at People First Stadium on the Gold Coast. And we've got the Eagles up against the Power over at Optus Stadium. And then our FantasyBros Sunday Showdown, where you can get your ticket into that final round to win the $5,000. You've got the Swans up against the Saints at the SCG, and you have the Bombers up against the Blues. And I assume that one there is at the MCG2 from memory. But before I talk through that Monday game as well, I've got an asterisk next to the Collingwood and the Melbourne game, because it's not going to actually be part of the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown this round. So just for all our viewers and listeners.
Right, okay. I was going to ask that because last time we had a Monday game, I'm still like, I don't know if I've qualified for the FantasyBros Sunday Showdown, because I came first one round, but it was with a Monday. It was the Easter Monday game. So I came first. I don't know if I qualified or not. So I need to follow up.
Yeah, hit up Cal and see, because that's why I put the asterisk there, because they mentioned after that round there was an issue with the Monday games counting for the Sunday competition. Initially it was going to, but with that they couldn't quite get it working. So they've mentioned that you can't pick players from the Collingwood and Demons game, even though it's like it should have been technically part of the Sunday Showdown comp. So you can only pick players from the Swans, Saints, Bombers, and Blues. Just keep that in mind.
Plenty of relevant players in those two games as well. So I think we'll be able to fill out our squads, I think.
Absolutely. And I probably should have put that on screen there too, in terms of when that Collingwood and Demons game is played. That's going to be played on Monday, the 8th of June. That's part of the King's birthday clash, the big freeze game that they have down there at the MCG. So, yeah, asterisk next to that one. And there's probably a second reason to talk about that too. You're not going to get those team lists until Sunday night. So that's the other asterisk there, because I think there's a few implications. A few things that
Heath, is he going to come in back up ruck for Collingwood? Are they going to bring him in? I'm hoping not, but I guess we'll have to see.
And that just means when you're picking your rucks, you've got to keep that in mind. And to be fair, we're probably picking Maxi Gawn. We'll talk about that when we get to the rucks. But the question, or the thing I'm going to be thinking about is maybe not loading up on too much salary just in case a Max Heath does come in. We know Demons lost last week. Do they bring him back in? Was it just a matter of getting some run in the legs for a Maxi Heath, given he'd had low time on ground a few weeks prior and they still want to have him in the side? We don't know those things. That's going to happen. That's going to come out Sunday night. So, yeah, I think we play Maxi Gawn, but just an asterisk, we're not going to know exactly what's happening until Monday. And we've obviously got Darcy Cameron in that game too as another ruck.
Yeah.
Now, mate, any thoughts on that before we move on, or chatting about our defenders on screen?
I think we chatted about it all, which is good. But as I said, I'll be going along to that game tomorrow night. So big game, and also the game for you, your boys, the Lions. So that's a massive game. I know it's not on any of the actual slates or anything like that. It's just on the Sunday games. But the fact that, like, you look at the game, and if Brisbane lose this, they could fall outside of the top 8 depending on results below them. But Gold Coast also need to win, because Gold Coast need to keep in touch with the top 4. Because if the Cats get the job done tomorrow night, Gold Coast will be 2 games behind Geelong, and they've Hawthorn when they'll be 2 games behind Force. So they need to win, but Brisbane also need to get their season back on track. So it's a massive game.
Yeah, sure. We were watching that one. Yeah, not sure how they're going to go either. They've been out of form, so a bit worried about that one personally. But let's hope they can get their season back on track. Got a few boys in the chat as well there too. Michael Cossey, g'day Michael Cossey, says that a mate of his is calling him the career killer, and true to form, he's put Stephen Cornelio in as a bit of a pod, and of course he got injured and scored about 26. So that is unlucky. You can't.
Hopefully that didn't count for you. Hopefully it didn't count. But if you had Flanders, then you would have had one count, unfortunately.
Oh, it's just rough, isn't it? Just ruins your week. So, mate, let's have a look here. Out defenders. There's a few things to keep in mind. A couple of things I'll flag. Just Dane Zorko, obviously we know he's going to be out for an extended period of time with that quad concern. But we've also just seen Kitty Coleman has been named out as injured too. So he's got a hamstring injury that'll rule him out for 5 to 6 weeks. So the Lions are going to be without Coleman, Zorko, and Lester down back. So your lights just go out there.
I reckon that the globe just went out. That's really frustrating because I need to record other stuff afterwards. So I think my light has just gone in mid-pod. Thankfully, I've got like the light behind the computer, but I think I'll be doing this just like this. I think so. Okay, interesting. Anyway, we continue.
What do you think there? Like, if we actually just jump down to one of our pods, right? Who is Darcy Wilmot? You can see there on screen. He's going to be playing without a Zorko, without Kitty Coleman, and without a Ryan Lester. So in terms of that market share down back for him, that has opened right up, and he's already been in incredible form. And in fact, playing against, so actually, since Zorko has been out of the side, some of the scores there for a Darcy Wilmot's been 135, 118, and 150 just in the 3. And then before that, he had a season high 160 GDS points against the Bombers. So he's been absolutely killing it this season, and it's thanks to that high kick to handball ratio that he's got. Are you interested in a Darcy Wilmot now as a bit of a pod, given some of that news that's come out, or is that still a little bit out there for you?
No, I'm not just interested. He's in my side. He's in my squad. I've got him in there in Classic. I've got him in my squad. The Gold Coast matchup's good. I like the matchup. He's, as you said, the fact that Zorko's been out. And I'm sure as a Brisbane fan, you would have been sort of predicting this as well. But when Zorko's not going to be there in the future, Wilmot's going to be the guy back there. He's going to be the main guy. And we've seen that over the past 5-6 weeks. Like, okay, he's had one bad score, but every player really has a bad score in them every now and again, and he just gets it done. So he's in the squad there and pretty keen on him. I don't mind in the under-22s comp. I think Jasper Fletcher's normally in our squads, but I probably like him to go back there and because his role's been it seems to be changing a little bit. Like it's been on a wing, it's been half back, it's been hasn't been the same sort of solidified role it has been. So he could be a sneaky one to do there. And just quick, I know it's not sort of in defender bit, but do you think maybe someone like a McCluggage just goes back to half back, just get some ball back there, good ball user out of the back line, sort of to build up that confidence? Like, do you think they might throw someone like him back there, or like maybe another player back there to fill the Coleman and Zorko void to maybe take some ceiling off of a Wilmot type? Or
yeah, I'm not. I don't know if they would do a McCluggage. Like I can see the thinking behind it, and it might be something they, maybe they should do given McCluggage's form, but. I don't see him being one that can sort of go back. I definitely think a Jasper Fletcher is someone we look at in 22s for that exact reason. I think they will have him back there and they will rely on him alongside a Darcy Wilmot. But yeah, it'd be interesting. I don't quite see it as a Hugh McCluggage, but it's something as for me, I'm really keen to see with that change in the back line. What does that look like this week? Not just for a Darcy Wilmot, but for some of those other guys too. I'm not quite sure what they're going to do, to be honest, to fill those big voids, but we'll wait and see. In terms of that Gold Coast matchup you just mentioned there too, mate, it's actually the second best matchup for a Darcy Wilmot across his career. He's had some great scores with Zorko in the side. So his last 5 against them, it's been 117, 98, 82, 139, and 115. So he actually does score quite well on them outside of all these, contextual things happening. So I think he's a great shout. And there's another player who I had in my side. So Darcy Wilmot in the contention at the moment for me in my sides. But a Nick Newman was someone who I was really keen on, and I've got that asterisk next to him up there because, as you can see, he's had surgery on his finger. Yeah, so it means that he's in doubt. So he may still end up playing. He may not. He might miss. They've got their bye next week. But there's just a few concerns around him. Now, I think if he was named, maybe we've got to think now with that finger surgery, maybe he's someone we've actually considered a little bit more carefully. But he was one I was really keen on, just the way, we know what he does off halfback and the role that he has and, the scores that he's had on some of those really easy matchups this year. He was one that screamed out to me early in the week. But he's one for me that he may end up coming out for a Darcy Wilmot.
Yeah, and he's not in for me at the moment. I was really keen. Again, he would have been a walk-up start, I think, this week. With the fact that I think it's a bit of not tricky week, but we've got a few questions on some defenders, obviously, with the fact that we've got Ash, Whitfield, both on bye, who are pretty much plug and plays every single week. Jaden Short, who's been a good option depending on the matchup as well. And then I see you got the asterisks also there on the plug and plays. So I think Sinclair and Roberts are in our sides, but Nasai Wanganeen-Miller is expected to be back this week, but you'd anticipate there being a James Jordan tag, and I think he held him to a sub-ton last year. I think it was like a 90 in GDS or an 80-odd there. Even if he comes back this week, you probably just leaving him out for the week, knowing he's going to get attention against Sydney and the first week back from an injury?
Oh, it's probably the smart play, but it's Naz at the same time.
If he's named, he's going to be in, like, if you look at the ownership numbers, he's probably going to be owned by a lot of people. So I think it's probably a play that I'm looking at avoiding this week, just going, well, I don't see a 130 coming. Like, I don't see a massive ceiling, even though we know he can do that. But I also see potentially like a lower score, like an 80, where you might be able to get that leg up with. If you play Darcy Wilmot and he goes to 130, it's 50 points you gain. That's a pretty big difference. That could be a difference when you're being top 10 for the week or outside 30, and your rewards that you get for packs and stuff might not be as good.
Yeah, for sure. It's something to think about. I'm not sure if I will leave him out, even given the tough matchup. He might get attention first game back. I'm not sure I can. I think I might just play.
I'm leaving him out. So if anyone wants to know, I am leaving him out this week, which I love Naz, and I don't like leaving him out. But
yeah, well, it is a tough matchup against the Swans, as you said. Like there's definitely something to think about, and I might even have to delve back into a bit more of his recent form against the Swans and what that's been like. But yeah, it's just one I find really hard to leave Nasai Wanganeen-Miller out, especially this week where, we've got players on buys and it's already hard as is to fill out our teams. He's one I'm almost just happy to play and just run out of bronze and see how he goes. But yeah, we know what he can do. He is that good a player. But I'm telling you one, someone who I've really locked in almost straight away was a James Sicily on screen there. He's coming up against the Bulldogs this week. The Hawks are up against the Bulldogs at the MCG. and they are the best matchup for opposition defenders this season. So they're giving up 88.2 GDS points on average. They're actually the fourth best matchup recently in the last 5 weeks. And he's actually coming off that season high 146 GDS points against the Saints. So they're another good matchup there too. That was his third score from memory, over 135 for the season. And we've seen some good scores, as always, against the Western Bulldogs. This is one that I'm pretty keen to target myself. But we know Carl Amon is a designated kicker there for the Hawks. We were looking at him last week. He underwhelmed a little bit with a 102. Have you looked at a Sicily or an Amon type as well in your backline, or potentially both?
Yeah, I've definitely looked at both. I've currently only got Amon in there, but Sicily's been one that I was keen to chat about on here to see if I'd chuck him in, because I'm tossing up him and another on the bench at the moment. So it's like I'm picking 2 of 3 between Sicily, Amon, and I've got like Nick Blakey there as a bit of a pod as well. He's got up against the Saints this week, so a little bit underwhelming last week. But we know he's got a ceiling and it's a good matchup. But as you say, like James Sicily coming up against the Dogs, who he's normally got a pretty good history against. So they actually played earlier in the season. I think it was in round 5, and I'm just getting up what his exact score was. James Sicily in round 5. So he scored against the Dogs 135 points. Yeah, 135. Yep. So good score there. And I think Carl Amon was also not too bad either. So he had a 103. So a little bit lower there. But I think you can definitely play these guys, particularly with the good matchup. So I'm probably leaning towards playing both at the moment, because it's between like Blakey and him. And I guess Blakey's the guy that could cop attention. Do you think Sicily cops any attention from like a Riley West or something? Or that's not my only probably concern, but it's hard predicting tags unless it's like a Mullen or a Jordan or something, or a Murdoch.
I don't like speculating on those ones where like we haven't seen it before. They're always really hard to predict, and sometimes you kick yourself when you think something's going to happen and it doesn't eventuate. So he's probably one I would just play because we haven't seen it before. The one where I would consider that is if he was coming up against, or if we're looking at a defender against Freo, for example, where they've used a Pat Voss in that role pretty aggressively on a Sicily type, on a who's the other one, Cal Wilkie type, those key intercepting defenders. That's the one where I would be looking for it. So I want to have seen it before. I probably wouldn't flinch it. Yeah, like the likelihood of that happening, even how good Sicily's been on the Dogs in the past. So not so much one for me. Blakey's one we spoke about as well that you just mentioned there too. We looked at him this week. As you said, slightly underwhelming last week, but he did sit off that last part. Coming up against the Saints this week, his last 2 against them haven't been excellent, like 91 and 70. So underwhelming, but we know Saints are a good matchup too. So he's one.
I guess they've just got a few guys back there, don't they? They've got Mills. They've got.
Is he back this week as well?
Yeah, should be back. Yeah. Last week. Yeah, they've got like Mills, and then I know they don't play half back, but they've got like guys like McInerney and that run sort of through the midfield and then get back into defence as well. So it's like there are a few guys that could steal points. Like Josh Wrong's been good as well. Matt Roberts when he's there. So
he's just a bit of a yo-yo as well. Like he's to start the season, he had 112, 105, but then he goes 75, 92. Had a big 146, then he goes 81. Had a 176 against Collingwood, 82 the next week. 107 last week against the Tigers. Like he's just really up and down. So I find it, even though it's a good matchup,
he's a good one for like if he's in a prime time matchup or the Sunday Showdown. Chuck him in there.
Yes,
you've got him somewhere.
Well, he is in the Sunday Showdown this week too. So that's where I have him at the moment. I'm playing a gold Nick Blakey over there, but just one that I'm finding really hard to get a grasp on for a standard competition, for example. But you can still go there given the matchup. That's for sure. Jake Bowie, though, on the other hand, he's a bit more consistent. He's one of our pods there you can see on screen. He's one that I do like again this week. So he's had a great run for defenders leading into his bye. He's had a dream run, really. But, it was his first score under 100. He didn't quite get there. He was tracking really well to start the game, but just sort of fizzled out towards a 95 in the end. But again, had high disposals and a really high kick to handball ratio, which we like to see. He's got the market share. It's just that his marks are down a bit. His marks are down, and Collingwood. So that's the third easiest matchup for the season. They gave up points in the last 2 weeks to Bailey Dale, had a 112, Duggan a 127. There's been scores there recently too. So he's one I like in that King's birthday clash, mate, as a pretty reliable option. It looks like in our backlines.
Yeah, he's in for me. Yeah, I think that the matchup's too good, and he's in there for me, I think. So I'm definitely going there.
Oh, I love that. And now, can you go a Josh Dacos? Given how disappointing he's been, I throw Dan Houston into that conversation too. Can you go one of those boys this week?
So, just for context, right? So Josh Dacos has only got 1 ton in his last 5 games in GDS, and he's only got 1 score over 115 since round 3, and that was a 140 against in round 7. So I can't remember exactly who he played in round 7, but
would have been
it's been a while. But I do like the matchup for Josh Dacos here. It's against Melbourne, give up points. So Josh Dacos is in my GDS side, which is I don't know why, because there's not really much that's pointing there saying he's gonna go well, right? But I do remember last year watching the King's birthday game, and he actually had an absolute monster. So he had, just trying to work it out here, he would have had it would have been over 150 GDS points because he had 34 disposals with 11 marks and 25 kicks.
155. It would be.
Yeah. So it was a massive score. So I think that he's got something like that in him again. Maybe not as big as that, but I think you could look at a 120 there. So he's someone I'm concerned. But when we've got some good matchups like Sicily, Amon, if Newman's all good, Wilmot, Bowie, Blakey, like we talked about some guys, like, do you really have to take the risk on a Josh Dacos? That's I think the big question.
I just don't know how much risk is involved. That's me personally, because mate, I've got him in my GDS side as well, and I had the exact same
popular
feeling
as well. People see the name, put Josh Dacos in, and go, yep.
That's what I mean. And he hasn't really, although he's been so underwhelming, he hasn't really given you like a dirty floor score. He will still fight his way through marks to get into the game. Whereas a Dan Houston can sort of roll over a little bit. And Dan Houston
trust Dacos more than Houston.
100%.
Sure. Even though he's been more disappointing, to be fair. But
yeah, he will actually try and get into the game, which is good. Whereas a Dan Houston, if it's not going his way, he's happy to sort of roll over. But as I said, I still expect Dan Houston to score well this week, given the matchup too. Just looking at our DVP, mate, designated kickers, Melbourne, 3rd best matchup for designated kickers in the last 5 weeks. If you're looking at inside mids as well, they're in that top 5 too. So that's in just looking at some DVP data there. So I really like him. And yeah, it's his recent form against them. So that's 107, 155, 158, 148 in his last 4 games against the Ds.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's exactly right. So has mentioned that there too. He said last 2 King's birthday clashes, 155, 148. So I think even last week we saw Ash 157, Wick 130. This is one to me where I go, gee, in the round where we don't have a Whitfield and an Ash, I'm just going to chuck a Josh Dacos in because there's a bit of that King's birthday, big game sort of thing, a bit like Anzac Day against the Bombers where he went huge.
And both teams are going well as well, so both teams are going to be up for it, you'd imagine. So, yeah, I'm pretty keen on Dacos.
I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get hurt again. Let's do it. Now, mate, on screen, is that, we've covered everyone on there. Beautiful. John Noble, we're just not keen for that Brisbane matchup. Nah. That's all.
Yeah,
given how many good matchups there, I think
McKenna sits on him as well.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see him prove to us that he's ready for selection again. And when his time comes, we'll give him the call up, but it's not this week. Sorry, John. Just keep an eye on Billy Wilson for under 22s, by the way. Absolute weapon. I looked at him and Lockie Cowan last week too. So bloody really good options there in under 22s, and they've got a good matchup this week too against the Bombers. Just a bit of a shout. Now, midfield, this is where it gets really interesting. A few matchups I'm not super keen on there as well. You can see in the plug and plays, Dacos, Dawson, Bont, Smith, Heaney, Butters. They are all available to be selected this week, and there's probably another one that's not anywhere on screen. It's a Zach Merritt. You could also look at a Zach Merritt this week too, who's been pretty consistent. But I just don't love a lot of these matchups. Merritt's up against Carlton, and I said I don't really like them. They've been pretty restrictive, in recent times. I wrote there as well too, where were they the second toughest matchup for opposition mids in the past 5 weeks. They've just been really restrictive. And then Zach Butters comes up against the West Coast, who have been really hard to predict. They've been running tags and shutting down key players. And yeah, did they send? It wasn't Hoff. It was Dev Rob last time they played.
Yeah, it was Dev Rob last time, and then I think Hoff went to him later in the game. This is a hard week because I think of the plug and plays, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 tags of those 6 players. I think Nick will be fine, which is crazy. I think Nick will be fine, which is crazy to say, and I think Baz will be fine, which they're probably the 2 top scorers. So I think they'll be fine. I think Baz against the Crows don't tag, and then Dacos against Melbourne. I don't think Melbourne will tag, but Jordan Dawson, I think he gets Mullen or O'Connor, but I feel like he's going to be so highly selected. He's too good a player to put a floor. Like, I think I went to it the other day. He's had because I looked at him in other formats. Obviously, coming for the bye, and you think he's refreshed. But for like GD, I think he's had 4 scores below 70 in the last 3 years, and that being a game against Hawthorn where he was injured, he shouldn't have played, but he ended up doing that. Full forward against Carlton, and then key back against Brisbane, and those 3 were in the same year as well. So that was 2 years ago. So there is only 3 scores below 70, and I think he had like a mid-80 score against a Bergman tag last year, and that was a really hard tag. Besides that, though, he's pretty much a 90, 95 plus every week. So I feel like you bit of safety with Dawson, but
I think with him as well, just before you jump on the Bont, mate, I think the other thing with Dawson is that the players who can push forward against the Cats have really sort of overcome that tag, like an Isaac Heaney. I think when they played the Cats at the SCG, no, it was at the Cattery. It was down at the Cattery.
Heaney got a ton, yeah.
Yeah, he still got to, I think it was 110 or 120 from memory.
Yep.
And it was his ability to push forward and still hit the scoreboard. And I think Dawson can score in lots of different ways. He can go back, he can go forward, he can tackle, really pose that challenge. So he's one that I'm probably, I expect attention to him in some capacity, but happy to back him in. Yeah,
exactly. Bont will likely cop Connor Nash. He does it every time that they play against because it's just such a good matchup because of how tall Connor Nash is. Butters, as we said, will probably get Hoff. But Heaney's the one I'm almost like not the most concerned about, but there's a big flag with this because he's a very similar player, obviously, to Chris Petrarca. And when St Kilda played Gold Coast, all of Stocker, Windhager, and a little bit of Garcia all went to Petrarca in that game. And I think that Windhager's a good matchup for Heaney, and also think that Stocker's a good matchup for Heaney because they both can play in defence and they can follow him forward. So I'm actually, after the massive score with Heaney last week, I gave him his props early, but I'm fading him at the moment this week. That's the one. So I think you're doing it. Yeah, you're doing it as well. So you're concerned with that tag also.
I'm concerned for the St Kilda matchup as well. Yeah, as you said, there's players that can go to him. This might be superficial as well, but when players come off scores like that, and there's been so much chat in the media about he's the best player in the game. How many times he's had 20 plus disposals and 5 goals in a game. The teams aren't just going to let him keep doing that. And
I know he's not going to let him do what he wants.
I know you shouldn't be not picking a player because of that, because there's nothing really to substantiate it. But that's just kind of my gut feeling on it. But if you want some actual data, Saints are a tough matchup in terms of midfielders as well. They're not giving up a huge amount. They're pretty neutral actually over the board. But they're also Heaney's worst matchup for his career to date. He's the team he's struggled most against out of everyone. The one thing I will say, though, is that he should probably still get to an okay score, shouldn't he? Like, I can still see him getting to a 100,
he turned up against Mullen. He turned up against Mullen with the tag. So he can still do that, right? But I guess it's just the ceiling is like, and as you said, right, he's been talk of the week with like saying he's right up there and the best player in the game and that. And if there's ever a game that you said, like put your hand up to say tag me, it was that game last week. It was definitely that game. Like he was absolutely huge. So I think he gets attention.
So do I. His scores as well, right? So he had 195 last week. Before that, 111, 120, 112, 122, 123.
He's consistent.
Consistent, yeah. So I probably don't expect too much. He had another couple of really good matchups, round 5, round 4. So one of those was against West Coast from memory as well. So that was, 150, 170. He's had some really good scores. But I think that's those really positive matchups where he does that, where you can anticipate it. He can challenge a threat forward of the ball. He can win the ball in the guts. But if it's a matchup like this, I'm just sort of not expecting that big ceiling score. And yeah, every chance he does put it on us, but I think it's highly unlikely. And there's a few other players I do want to try sneak in if I can.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of someone you want to sneak in, out of those players on screen, 3 options for round 13, we think you can look at a Noah Anderson. We'll talk through why in a moment. A Lockie Neal and a Max Holmes. They're 3 options this week. Couple points of difference, if you want, is a Matt Rowell. The Lions are giving up points very recently, given their poor form. And so there's every chance you could be looking at one of those sons. So I thought we probably should sneak them both on to talk about somewhere. But a Sam Walsh as well probably has arguably the best matchup of the week for our midfielders. I'm assuming you've got a Sam Walsh there somewhere?
Yep. Yeah, Sam Walsh is in for me. He looked good last week. I thought that was his best game I've seen him play since that Freo game where he went the 150 in GDS. we just haven't seen that big ceiling. He's been, to be honest, like with Walsh, like we probably said he hasn't been as good this year. And he hasn't been in the top level of these mids, right? But he's been pretty consistent, right? Like I think he's only had 3 games this year where he hasn't turned up, that being a 93, 94, and 84. So if you're telling me that there is 3 worse scores here, it's not too bad. Like it just has had those ceilings, right? So that 124 was his 4th 120 plus score of the season, and his first, as I said, since that big score against Freo. So I think it's the Bombers. He goes, well, I think Carlton win this one, win 4 in a row. They're going to make that wild card round possibly. Who knows? We'll see if they're going to make a run. I'm sure Vossi's not feeling too great at the moment, seeing them play quite well now that he's not there. But yeah, I like Walsh there. And of the guys you mentioned before, am I maybe just stubborn? I'm not a Brisbane fan, right? But I just expect them to come out breathing fire in a Q clash. Fagan would have sort of not ripped them a new one behind closed doors, but he'd be giving them a stern word saying, like, boys, what are you doing here? Like, this hasn't been good enough. This is not what we stand for. I just expect Brisbane in a big game against a rival to come out and show them who the big boy is in Queensland. So Lachie Neale, I think, is going to be at the front of the queue there. Gold Coast, a good matchup for mids. They don't tag. Last week for Lachie Neale was his first real bad score for a fair while. Purely, I think, just because Freo dominated that game. But before that, it was 127, 101, 146, 131, 185, 110, 114, 134. And then he had his last low game in round 3. So he's gone really well then. So I'm pretty keen. I think they bounce back. But I'll be interested in your thoughts as a Brisbane man.
I have said this for the past couple of weeks that they are due for a bounce back, and they haven't. So, yeah, I'm hoping they do, mate. I still think they will. They've got to do it at some point. It's just this is a really tough game to do it in because the Suns will be up for a fight. They were knocked out in the semi-final last year, and I know Damien Harvey's going to be talking about that to them and saying, hey, coming off a bye, these guys are right for the picking, right? We can take this big scalp here and just continue on our merry way. They knocked us out of a semi-final. And I just think they're going to be super hungry. So this is one
that's why it's such a good game. That's like I'm looking forward to this one because you got both narratives on both sides that is going to make this big.
But that's why I sort of think I'm looking at matchups and I go, which matchups do I expect more fantasy points to be scored in? And I feel like this is one where I can see some fantasy points being scored both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
So I like this matchup for that reason. There's other matchups where I struggle to see it, like again, the fade on screen there, LDU. North Melbourne up against a Freo. I don't see a lot of high scoring in that one. It doesn't scream like one to me. They're both restrictive matchups across lots of positions.
Whereas probably that's about the only one.
Yeah, he's just a plug and play, isn't he? Everywhere he's a gun. But with a Lachie Neale, if you talked about his form this year, his form against the Suns too has been incredible. So he's averaging 137 in the past 4 games against them. So that's 142, 101, 151, 155. So he goes really well, and he was held to 78 GDS points last week. He obviously got a bit of attention from a Matthew Johnson, which again was probably a little bit unexpected. But the Dockers, they're a restrictive matchup. We knew it was going to be tougher. I still went there anyway. That's the maroon, blue, and gold coming out of me. But yeah, I like this one more. So he's one that I've been trying to squeeze in, and it's between him and a Noah Anderson for me. So, mate, if you're thinking of Lachie Neale as well, a couple minds there. I know Haz is interested as well. I'm thinking I might end up going that way personally myself because it is a great matchup, as you said, up against the Suns. Yep. The only thing could add Tuke Miller or an Alex Davies, maybe do a bit of work on him at stoppage. But we know Dimmer's not one to really run a really hard tag all the time. So, yeah, slight little flag there. But for me, I think I like a Lachie Neale.
Yeah, I'm agreeing there.
Speaking of Nando, let's quickly knock off those 2 Suns boys just while we're here, mate, talking about that same game. Put them on screen again. So we've had, Noah Anderson. He's had great form before going on his bye. He had scores of 141, 143, 138. So very, very solid since having his appendix removed. And if that's all it took, hey, they should have done it earlier. We'll see if he can keep that up post-bye. But, against the Lions too, he's had pretty good scores against them recently too. They're the 3rd best matchup recently for opposition mids. And I didn't even write down the scores he's had on them. So he's had solid scores, average of 109 in the past 5 games against them. Low score of 97, high score of 124. So we haven't seen a ceiling score from him against the Lions, although he's been really consistent. That's my only thing. But the form he's in has been incredible before his bye. So potentially one to look at.
Yeah. I'm still looking at the matchup against Brisbane, and I think that the numbers of I know they've lost them, but I still think they've been a little bit deceptive in a way of them being a good matchup. Because you're looking at the last 3 games, the only guy that really scored really highly as a midfielder was Bailey Smith with a 185. But Baz is built different. He's one of the top.
Probably inflates it a bit.
So inflates a little bit. He's the top scorer obviously this season. So like that inflates there. But besides him, the next best mid for Geelong was Tanner Brun with a 108, Max Holmes 104, and that was in a big win for Geelong. The week after, when they played GWS again, I think numbers are really skewed that one because it was that big quarter, right? It was obviously Oliver 146, Callahan 137. They were the 2 mids, but the next one was Canino with 107. But Oliver and Callahan both had over 50 points in that third quarter when they kicked the 14 unanswered goals. But outside of that quarter, they still didn't give up that many points. And then last week against Freo, I know Freo aren't a high-scoring fantasy side, but the highest-scoring mid was Johnson 108, Brayshaw 94, and then O'Driscoll had 86. So I still think that the numbers, like, they look good on paper because you see like there's a 180 from Baz, there's a couple big scores on the Giants boys, but I do feel like they're a little bit more of an anomaly than actual like what they'll give up. So that's why I'm a little bit concerned. I just don't know if there's the upside for Anderson and Rao, even though Rao did have a 160 against Brisbane in the wet in that last game at People's First Stadium last year.
Well, he's the one. Like, they're good points you raised too. We know Brisbane are typically a really restrictive matchup for opposition mid. So this is something that really clashes with what we sort of know about the Lions and how good they've been. Rao has the previous form on the Lions that Noah Anderson doesn't in terms of hitting those ceiling scores. So yeah, that big 160 game there. Was it 160 you said?
From memory? It was 160, wasn't it? Around 160. I was saying it was around 160. I know it was a big score.
Yeah, 168. Sorry, 168 there. And he had a 120 as well in that semi-final. That was where Josh Dunkley sat on him. So yeah, he's got that form there against the Lions, and obviously before going on his bye, playing against the North Melbourne Kangaroos at Marvel, he had 147 GDS points. So he's struggled to come back this year from that injury he had. He's been building back into it. Had that really good score before the bye. So yeah, probably just depends. How do you see the game going? Do you want to back in a Suns mid? Because yeah, I mean they can give you that poor score. Nando has done that in the past to us. We get sucked into him a little bit and he'll let us down. So he's not as reliable as somebody else like a Max Holmes, for example. I think a Holmes is probably a bit more reliable than a Noah Anderson. Have you looked at a Max Holmes this week against your boys?
Nah, not really. I know that obviously he's been pretty good this year, but I guess that he's one of those guys that if you don't play, don't think you're going to get that hurt. Like he started off the season amazing. Like he went over 125 in every single game in the first 5, but since then, he's only had 2 scores over 125 since then. And that was a 130 a couple of weeks ago, and then a 132 in round 8. So he's consistent. Like, I think if he was a defender in GDS, which is another format, so might be a defender in GDS next year. But as a mid, you want those big ceiling scores, right? You like that, and that's why I've probably got those guys ahead of him at the moment. If there's a good matchup there, of course, I'm definitely gonna look at Max Holmes. But I just think this week there's a few matchups that I do like a little bit more. A few guys that I think have got that ceiling. Like you're tossing up someone probably like a Dawson versus a Holmes, right? It's like, who are you going? You're going to go the guy that gets tagged or the guy that's got an okay matchup. I feel like I'm leaning towards Dawson because he's got the ability to go 160, 170. Whereas I don't know if Holmes has got that. He's got it in him, right? But not consistently. So you're probably banking more on the Dawson ceiling than the Holmes ceiling. I think.
He is harder to predict at the moment. But the thing I do like about him is that, that midfield role is back, and that's what we like him in. So he's had 61% CBAs and 68% in his past couple of weeks, which was up considerably from the weeks prior. And Adelaide,
Warple being out is the big one. Warple not being there is just that less midfielder, and then he just goes in there.
Yeah. So last 2 games against the Crows, he's had GDS scores of 135 and 160 as well. So has had some form there against them. So it's one that I think he'll be popular again, and he's one that I'm liking. I've got him in my squad. Again, I'm finding it quite tricky to pick these mids this week, that's for sure. And I spoke about LDU there in terms of the avoid, just not really keen on an LDU. He's got a great run opening up probably next week. But up against
I think it's actually a week after. I think it's West Coast next week, so I think Hoff will probably sit on LDU. So I think LDU's an avoid for 2 weeks. And then I think after he goes Richmond, Essendon, and Port Collingwood or something. So I think we're looking at him there and going, we're targeting him for those weeks.
Yeah, nice. Again, I'm not looking at mids against like a Freo and a Carlton where possible recently too. That's just hasn't quite worked out there, and I don't love targeting those matchups. But now, hey, I've got another pod for you here. Nick Newman, if he doesn't quite play, if they rule him out, Ollie Florent is a midfielder, and he's been playing down back for the Blues. This is very out there, right? But in 3 juicy matchups this season, Florent has gone 103 against the Pies, 123 against the Saints, 149 against the Dogs. He's their key distributor out of the back line alongside a Nick Newman. If a Newman goes out and the market share of points open up a bit, and Ollie Florent, you could do worse than picking an Ollie Florent to round out your midfield this week. Just thought I'd throw that out there. It is a bit spicy though, and it does probably depend on a Nick Newman being out.
You know what he is? He is the perfect FantasyBros Sunday Showdown player. I think that's the perfect one to put there. I think he plays on the Sunday. You chuck him in there because I have to redo my squad because I wasn't sure if Collingwood and Melbourne were included, but he'll be in there. I think, no doubt, just with the mid status, and I think he'll go quite well. I think regardless if Newman's there or not, I think he can put up a good squad. Just don't think again he's a midfielder. It's a pretty sort of special position that these guys can go big, and I don't know if he can go the 160s that some of these other guys can.
Yeah, exactly. It is a very spicy one. Just thought I'd shout it out with.
It's a good one. I like it. I do like it.
Nick Newman being potentially out this week, depending on finger injury or surgery he's had and how he recovers. But mate, moving on to our rucks on screen, you can see I think we have one option this week. Then we have Daylight second, and then I think we have every other ruck you can find. It's a tough week.
They've all got tough matchups, don't they? You look at them there. Cherry's up against Jackson. Jackson's up against Cherry, right? So it's a tough matchup either way. English up against the Hawthorn duo. Darcy Cameron up against Gorn. And Grundy against the St Kilda Rucks. So it's...
The other flag with a Brodie Grundy is he was obviously managed last week. Peter Laddams comes in, does a great role. Now we have to wait and see what happens with Dean Cox and the decision he makes. Does he keep Laddams in? Do they roll a dual ruck setup, which has been sort of the flavour this season for season 2026 with those new ruck rules? Does Laddams go straight back out and Grundy's the sole ruck? We don't know until teams come out, really, unless you're in the inner sanctum. But that's the one concern you got to keep an eye on for teams with a Brodie Grundy. It's tough, even with a Maxi Gawn. If you want to throw something on a Maxi Gawn, they lost last week, and Max Heath, we don't know really why he sort of left the side. Like if it was,
it's because he was only playing 25% game time. There was just no point him in there. I might just be saying this because I'm more probably hoping more than anything, but I just don't think I think Gawn is when he's solo and he's up at his game, he's the best ruck in the comp. He's the best ruck that I've seen. So I just don't see the value. And the thing I think there was a statement was my check was back last week for Melbourne and Heath was out that week. So it's like my check in allows Van Rooyen, because I think the reason Heath was in there was because when Gawn went off and Van Rooyen or whoever would go to back up ruck, they'd have no key forward. Whereas when Van Rooyen goes into the ruck now and Gawn's off for his break, you've still got my check down there. You've still got Fritsch. You've got a couple of guys down there. So I think as long as my check's there and he's fit and going, which he's in the best team there, I think Heath won't be there unless they really want to get going. As has joined the chat today, has mate. So I think he'll be soloed this week, but it's again we're not going to know up until I don't know when these teams come out. If it's Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, but then same with Darcy Cameron, we're not going to know if they name another ruck. Then so I've got Grundy at the moment because I'm expecting Lambs to be out because I've got McLean or Amadi that can back up ruck instead.
Yep.
But are you the same as Grundy?
Yep.
If Laddams is named, who are you going? Who's the next guy? Because there's
Cameron.
I don't. You're Darcy Cameron.
Yep. I'm Darcy Cameron. I'm pretty confident with that. I think maybe the other one is you maybe could go a Tim English as well.
That's who I'm currently thinking at the moment. If Laddams is named, just because Hawthorn rucks, yes, but we know how good English is when he's on his game. And I think pre-season it was against Hawthorn where he had an absolute monster score, and that was why a lot of us were like, he could be the number one scoring ruck this year in GDS. So because it was funny that who was it last night that we were chatting to about this? I think it was Jordox on our pod was saying that Tristan Cherry's numbers before the bye. I don't know if you've seen what his CBA numbers were in the second half of that game, even actually just in general in that full game against Gold Coast. Obviously, Gold Coast, a tricky matchup with Witts and Moyle playing anyway, but here's just a stat that if people want to know this. So in the third quarter of that game against Gold Coast, CBAs, Trembath had 4, Tristan Cherry only had 2. So that was interesting. And Tristan Cherry had low game time, 69%. And in the last quarter, Trent Barth had 6 CBAs, Will Dawson had 2, and then Cherry had 2. So he had 71%. And I think it wasn't much better in the he only played 51% Tog in the second quarter, but still had the 5 CBAs in the first quarter. I think he was a little bit better, was a clear ruck. So I just wonder if even North Melbourne are doing that, adopting that better jumper at the CBAs, because that's the big thing with the rucks for us this year, right?
Yeah.
Is that unless you're a ruck that's a good jumper, like a Jackson and English, but English has been injured in his own, anyway, these rucks have been a little bit up and down. So it's so hard to predict. I think it's Gawn and Grundy, I think, as we've said, but if Laddams is named, and it could be a bit of a disaster week for the rucks, I think, if all goes wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what would happen there. I think, like, at the moment in my side, I've got a Gawn and a Darcy Cameron into my side, and it's just pending what happens with Peter Laddams, exactly like you said. The one thing with Darcy Cameron I'd mention is that his last few scores against the Max Gawn and the Demons, he's had 100, 110, 97, 88. So 100 and 110 of the most recent 2 scores he's had against them. So pretty solid. And he's coming off scores of 116 and 143 as the solo ruck. I think that, if a Laddams is named, I'm going to go with Darcy Cameron. And then, look, to be fair, I don't know. Is there anything to say, even if Laddams isn't named? Could you even look at a Darcy Cameron over a Brodie Grundy? If that's a Kilda matchup, I don't know if you can go against the ruck pig, but
I'd still go Grundy if Laddams isn't there, just because the ceiling, the form, and again, Darcy Cameron. I think before Grundy plays, we're not going to know if they name it. I don't think Collingwood will. I still think Cameron lost centre bounces, but to be fair, he's played 2 pretty mobile and sort of guys that could jump in Tim English and then Bailey Williams a week before. So I think it's not all doom and gloom with Darcy Cameron. But I'll give you pod though. You've got prime time right there, Lockie McAndrew. I'll give you another pod with the teams. Mark Blitzarves is one that I've got in the primetime pick. If you want to go real spicy in the rucks, Mitch Edwards has been dropped, not dropped, managed for this game.
Yeah.
I don't know. Blitzarves, this seems like a game where he could actually go 120. If he's going to be the number 1 ruck, we know that he can score on his day. He's in my primetime squad. So just someone.
Don't mind it.
If Laddams is named and then you're worried about Cameron sharing and then English up against a tough matchup, the other 2 are up in a tough matchup against each other, I don't know. Might not be the most craziest thing.
Not on a week like this. It's a good shout, that's for sure. It is a very tough one. The other reason why I probably don't like going a Gawn and a Darcy Cameron combo, even though it's what I've got at the moment, because we don't get those teams till Sunday, God forbid if anything happens, like you said, both have 2 rucks coming in, something happens and they're out. You got nowhere to pivot. So
Nick Bryan and Matt Pitney, they're only 2 because they'll play after.
That's not great. But that's the other scary thing too. So that's why I think, it's probably got to be Gawn, Grundy, Darcy Cameron. They're my 3, and then maybe in English as well against the Hawks matchup there. But I just flagged, has getting in the chat there too. Apologies to those in the chat. I had missed a couple of those, but he actually mentioned that exact thing about Myercheck you mentioned there last week. He said as soon as he saw that on Teams, he came to the extended squad. He said he's going to be out. That's the key thing that's going to keep him out of the side. So he picked that up last week, and it was a really good shout. But heaps of others in the chat there too. G'day Maxie Hansen, he's in there, and Silver Pigeon as always. That's our GDS Cup champion for 2026, mate, in the chat. So there's heaps getting around there, which is really good. And then Tagger Finn has jumped in there as well, just mentioning that Cherry concussion concern. There was a head clash at training with Finn O'Sullivan. Finn O'Sullivan's already been ruled out. Maybe one to watch as well. But
Big X with the hard head and the helmet, hopefully is okay. But obviously it sucks for Foss though, because he's been really good.
Yeah, he has. Having a great year in the midfield there too for the Roos. So just something to keep an eye on there at teams. More carnage in our ruck line. And here are our forward picks for round 13, mate. We've got our plug and plays being Sheasel, Petrarca, and Pickett. I think we lock those 3 in pretty safely. A couple other options. Jordan De Goey, our boy, how good was Jordan De Goey? I know we didn't talk too much about him at the start with our stars and scars, but he had, I'm just trying to find it there, I believe it was 20 score involvements out of his, or it could even be more than that. Let me quickly double check what Has wrote down. He had a high number of score involvements there.
19. 19. I remember them
19
saying it
score
after.
involvements.
Yeah.
Incredible. So only 11 of his touches were not involved in a score, which is just ridiculous. So, yeah, 10 marks as well there, 3 tackles, a goal, 52% CBAs. The role is there. His form is elite. He now has a positive matchup against the Demons as well. I just think he's as close as a lock as you're going to get this week.
Lock in to go. I think you got to put it in there. Not often do I put out a tweet and then laugh at my own tweet, but I was actually laughing at the GIF. If anyone followed me on Twitter, I posted the GIF of if anyone's seen that Paramount Plus ad with the goat, whatever, like just I thought it's quite funny with that GIF there. So whoever made that GIF, thank you for doing that because I was able to put that on the tweet there. But he's been great. Like I feel like this is almost his career best month in terms of numbers. Like he's doing a lot of damage. The little flag last week was with Elliott going out for the season, but as shown last week, Goey just offers so much in that midfield. He gets back into defence, gets those +7s for us in GS, which we love to see. And arguably, it's probably a good thing for Collingwood because all of a sudden opposition teams are going and like, well, do we take Nick Dacos? Do we take De Goey? Like, where are we going? Like, you're probably going to go to Nick first, right? Because Nick's Nick Dacos, right? So you're going to go there. And if that's going to be the case, well, De Goey's going to be able to run free, right? Whereas if De Goey gets a bit of attention, he can go forward and can hit the scoreboard and still put up solid scores. And then Nick Dacos starts going big, right? So I think it's a good thing for both that they can feed off each other. So I think he's there. But I feel like this is a real boring week for forwards. I think there was like normally when, I don't know about you, when you put your squad in that, there's always like you put 4 or 5 in, you're like, yeah, happy with those. And there's like 3 or 4 where you're like, I've got 6 guys I want to try and fit in, right? Whereas I felt the forwards this week, I had 7 guys in there and I put the 7 in and I was like, I don't want to change it. And I'll read them out to you. She's Track Cozzy, as you got there. De Goey, Zach Bailey, who you've obviously got there as well. Tom Sparrow. And I've got one that you probably forgot to put up there, Riley Sanders, who's quietly also going well. I feel like they're the 7. I don't know if I'd trust anyone enough. But I know there's a couple of pods that you've got there.
Riley Sanders. So the reason why he's not up there as well is the Hawthorn matchup. I'm not convinced, even how good he's been in his role, I'm not convinced that's the best matchup for him. What's your reason for picking? Is it role and consistency for him this season that you're liking in what can be a volatile forward line at times?
Yeah. Three things: role, consistency, and safety. I think in the forward line. I think that's why I've picked him because last 3, 120, 122, 114 in GS, which is good. And like before that, he had a couple of 90s and 100, a 90, a couple of hundreds again, a 120 in there. And the only 2 bad scores he had was rounds 1 and 2, where he scored a 51-74. I think they're anomalies from what we've seen. So I just think it's just the role. Like I guess we can move to like your pods, right? You've got Hayward there who's been great, right? But he's a half forward. Same with Con McDonald. And Con McDonald plays in the forward line where you've got Ginnivan and Watson and Dylan Moore and all these guys that can score. So I don't know. Like that's why I think I've just got Sanders in there.
Yeah. Well, I'll throw a Connor McDonald is one that I think Has and I are pretty keen on, and we've got in our forward lines this week. And it's funny because I think in the forward line, people will see different things and they like different things as well. And the Riley Sanders, for me, it's just the matchup this week. I love his role and his consistency, but that's my only concern that I have with him. But the Connor McDonald, for example, up against the Western Bulldogs, I just think there's a few things that are ticking the boxes for him there for me this week, or for Has as well, I should say. So the Doggies, first of all, they're his 3rd best matchup across the course of his career. He's shown consistent scoring against them, including earlier this season. They're back at the MCG this week, which, again, it just seems to work really well for not just him, but the Hawks' gameplay and their ability to get in those marking.
Yeah, the wide open ground.
Yeah, exactly. And I think his form almost coincides with the Hawks to an extent. Like the Hawks lost a few and he was down with his fantasy scoring, and then he had a 121 last week. And his marks were back up to 7. His marking came back. And the other thing for me here too, at the MCG, I feel like the Dogs, they can often be a team that is restrictive, but they they do get involved in games that are quite high scoring in terms of fantasy. Like they allowed 10 marks last week and 142 points to Jordan De Goey. They allowed 9 marks and 107 points to Lockie Schultz. The points and the marks should be there this week in a matchup that Connor McDonald has cashed in on before. So I think for me, he's one that I have in my forward line, and I'm probably not going to change that this week, even though he has hurt me before.
He scored a 114 against Dogs at Gatherround earlier this year, so he had a good score already there. And Sanders had a 104 in that game as well, so he had a good score there. And I just had a look at Sanders' last few opponents just to see has it been an easy run or not with him. So he had Collingwood last week, which is a decent matchup. The week before he had Melbourne, which is another positive matchup. But then he had Carlton, who's restrictive, and he scored a ton against them. Then he played Port Adelaide in Adelaide, so a bit restrictive. He got like a 90. And then the week before he played Freo when he got a 90. So like he's been able to get 90s. I feel like Sanders is very much almost like a Holmes, but in the forward line. Like he's not going to get you a 130, but he's going to probably get you a 90, 100. And McDonald is much more like the mids. He could give you 130, but he could also give you 70. So it's like, do you want the risk or the high risk, high reward? Do you want the ceiling? Or do you want the safety? That's probably where it comes down to, I think.
It's a great way to put it. And I feel like with a Riley Sanders, he's been really consistent, but he hasn't quite forced our hand yet. He hasn't forced coaches into picking him. So Jordan De Goey, on the other hand, like he's one that has actually forced coaches' hands. You have to pick me because I'm putting up 130s, 140s in the forward line. We haven't seen that yet from Riley Sanders. So coaches who play him like yourself, mate, last week or last couple of weeks potentially, and this week again, like you're laughing, getting those really consistent scores. And he's under the blanket, but hasn't quite cracked into the 7 for me this week. So something to keep an eye on. Who knows? Teams, they might have a say in what goes on between now and then. There's a bit of water to go under the bridge. Will Hayward, though, as a bit of a pod, it's just that Essendon matchup.
And he's been good.
He has been incredible.
Is it 3 tons in a row for Hayward now, I think?
Yep. Flying under the radar. So 4, 101, 116, 106, 124. But since that change in coach as well, so been playing, mentioned to Janeth, I flicked him a message, a shout out to Janeth from Supercoach Swordplay as well, obviously a Blues supporter. I said to him, I was like, mate, am I mad? Like, is this too spicy of a pod? And he was like, no, like it is not a bad shout at all. He's playing higher up the ground under this new system, and the Blues are in form. Like they're going really well, and that always tracks well with fantasy scoring. So for me, I just feel that Will Hayward is the type of player who can really cause some issues for a team like the Bombers. I feel like his ability to get up the ground, get involved in the transition ball and get some marks, but also hit the scoreboard. I just feel like that type of player, yes, it can be up and down at times, but I just feel like it can really challenge the Bombers this week. And he's one that I'm really tempted to roll out at an F7 and have a bit of a crack and have some fun. But
it's not crazy. It's not crazy at all. He's in good form. Again, for me, I'm probably playing a little bit more safer in Classic and Contender, but he's in the Sunday games. So,
exactly. Showdown. Yeah. Chuck him in your Sunday team. But how's this? Just for low scores, round 4, 30, and then round 8, 58. There's some scary low scores, but recently has been incredible and looked really good. And he's obviously benefiting from that change coming over to the Blues this year from the Swans. I was looking at his averages before as well. Like his averages for GDS, they're up about 20 points on what they have been. I think his best season from memory, he was sort of averaging in the 70s, and he's averaging about 88 GDS points this season. So just his form in this year has been awesome. So someone I thought I'd shout out. As I said, if you're keen to target those matchups, this could be the one to do it. So yeah, there you go. 88.6 GDS points averaging this year. Averaged 66.2 last year, 76.6 the year before. So he is having a great season, and the Blues are playing some good footy.
Yeah, agreed.
Alrighty, mate. And a Brad Hill, just that Sydney matchup. Not super keen on that one, even though Brad Hill's been great this year.
Yeah. I think with Flanders out, I think there'll be a bit more responsibility on Brad Hill to get involved more. And it's funny though, right? We didn't trust him. He kept putting up scores. Then we trust him. He pops up a 50, right? I think that's just Brad Hill. Like you trust him and he goes well. So knowing us, he's probably going to come up this week because we don't trust him.
And he's been good since that game he let us down too, from memory. I don't think he's actually. Sorry, I went the wrong way. Where is he there? 53. He's gone 93, 113 since.
Yeah, and we haven't played him in those 2 weeks. So what I'm saying is, if you play him, he's going to go bad. If you don't play him, he's going to go big. So I just think Sydney SCG, even though he could go well, I just don't know if the season's out. But I still think he's someone with Flanders out for the season. They're going to need to get more involved back there. Maybe does Nasai go back a bit more to half back, possibly. So yeah, I think if you're looking at the Saints forward, is it Max Hall? Like that's if you go on there, not this week probably, but I feel like if you're going more in the future, I think it's Max Hall with the role is one there. You've got Josh Rochelle on there, who as a Crows fan, I don't know. I don't know. Is he going to play? Is he going to play in the midfield with Rankin not there? Because the last time he played Geelong, I feel like that was arguably his career best game when we played down at the Cattery. So in that game, he had 31 disposals, 5 marks, 4 tackles, kicked a goal, and scored 139 GDS points. So I wouldn't be playing him.
His best game.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be playing him because of the risk, but maybe that's again. I feel like a lot of the guys that you don't want to take the risk on in Classic, they're actually this week they're in the prime time slot or in the Sunday Showdown, so you can you can put him in that one, right? So Rochelle's in my prime time squad, but not in my Classic side. So
and I think that's probably why he's that pod, right? He's we don't know what's going to happen. We've been so off him with Rankin there, but obviously he's not coming back this week. I still don't think he'll go through the midfield, but we don't really know. Like I feel like your boys look really good when they have a Rankin running through or a Rochelle running through. So maybe with a Rankin out, that's what they look to do, is getting back in there. So again, as a pod for that primetime competition, that's probably why. But does he get attention with a Rankin out, given how good he was last time?
If he goes into midfield, he will. If he goes into midfield, he will.
Probably why he can't go there in standard.
Yeah, I actually think he will play midfield this week. Like, it's funny, right? We're all going, we don't think he will. I actually think he will. I'm not game enough to play him in Classic, and I keep mentioning Classic because that's obviously the one that I'd probably put the most time and thought into. You just couldn't trust it in Classic, right? But
not at all.
I just see no Rankin there. Saligo's been playing more as a forward of late. Peating will be in there, Berry will be in there, and obviously Dawson and I think Curtin will run through there. But I still feel like Rochelle will get some time in there. Might not be the 60-70% we saw, particularly against Geelong, but I think you could see like a 40-odd% CBAs and go forward, because Archie's in the side, so he can play forward. Neil Bullen, Keys, like they've got forwards there that can cover if Rochelle goes. So I think he will, but I'm not game enough to play him in Classic.
No, I'm exactly with you, and I think that's what makes a good pod, right? Just we know what he can do, and coaches might have moved off him, and someone to look at in your primetime team. But definitely one to watch this weekend and see what happens with that role and how he goes too against the Cats. Now, mate, contender sides, here you go. On screen, you can see Haz and I. This is what we're currently looking at the moment. Obviously, a few things to play out. So we have Nick Newman, the main one there for me in the back line. I'm got to keep an eye on what he's going to do. If he's named to play, I think you mentioned this before, are you off him then in your Classic competition, for example? Is that just enough to say he's out, or are you still keen to chase that matchup?
I don't know. It's
hard.
I know it's very hard. If I heard nothing about Nick Newman this week, I would have gone, he's in. But now that I've heard that, it's just like, if he plays, though, you think he's probably going to be fine.
He won't be handballing.
I still feel like if he played, I probably would put him in there. He'd probably make it in instead of saying Amon, maybe. Because I don't. Again, Amon's got a good matchup, but has he got the ceiling? Like, Newman's got a massive ceiling on his day. Like, he can go 160. So I feel like I would if he's named, but he's just not there for me at the moment, just because I'm not sure if he'll be named or not.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on. That's what I'll be looking at as well. But otherwise, I like the matchup there. We've both gone at Sicily, the two Saints there in Wang and Sinclair. Both have an Archie Roberts. And then I've got a Josh Dacos in Contender, and has a Nick Blakey. And again, we try and split some players across our comps as well. In the midfield, pretty similar and standard midfield. The only difference there is that I haven't got a Heaney in the midfield this week. I'm looking at a Lockie Neal. I was talking to Haz about this before, and I'm really on the fence about that Isaac Heaney. I know I said I didn't have him in there. I wasn't keen on him. But then before I came on the show, I said to Haz, I was like, maybe I looked at his team and I thought maybe I'll just throw an Isaac Heaney in there because we know he's probably that solid, 110 give or take, even in a tough matchup. Just one I'm not sure, but there's just a few. It's tough in the midfield this week. So there's a few decisions there. But you can see lots of similarities. We both have some of the big names there: Dacos, Smith, Bontempelli, Jordan Dawson. Both have a Sam Walsh as well. We love that matchup. Rucks are very similar. Both have Gorn, and we've just got the Grundy and Cameron combo split at the moment. We'll just wait and see what happens with teams. And again, forward lines are fairly similar there as well. So, yeah, we've got Mel's in the chat as well. G'day, Mel's. No Heaney is a massive call, Pitty. It is, and I might be stupid, Bales. We might look silly next week. As I said, I haven't committed to this yet. I don't want to put that out to the footy gods just yet because they'll smite me down. But I haven't committed to it yet. We'll see. At the moment, he's not in, but I could crumble tomorrow depending how much Haz gets in my ear about playing Isaac Heaney. We'll just have to see. But I'm going to chase a Will Hayward in the forward line, I think. I just think with Zach Bailey, he's been really good, but I'm just really, I don't know what he's going to dish up. I don't know what the Lions are going to dish up. I have a bit more confidence in, I should do, in the Blues absolutely dominating the Bombers. I just feel like sometimes I'm recent form of the Lions, it's very hard to trust at the moment. That's my only little concern, but should be great. Midfield time. He's such a good player, hits the scoreboard. So he'll be playing somewhere in my teams, but just haven't got him in this one.
Oh, well, I've shared my screen if you want to also chuck my squad up on the screen again. Up. But I like Zach Bailey. I think that if Brisbane want to try some things in midfield, right, I think he might get a bit of time in there. But that's my squad at the moment. So that's my classic side. So I think that it's just a salary. I've just sort of toss up a couple of things. I've got silver on Grundy, but maybe I do that to a bronze and put that sort of on top of someone else there. But I've got no Bont, no Heaney at the moment, which that does make me nervous at the moment.
Yeah, that's scary.
But
you got to leave someone out.
Yeah, exactly. So at the moment, I might be maybe I put Bont in instead of Butters because Butters will probably get tagged and against with Hoff or Murdoch. So it's you probably just maybe get the risk away there. But he scored an 88 against we probably would have gone 105, 110 against Mullen when he got tagged.
Yeah, it was just over 100, 103.
Yeah, so he's still been able to go well even with the tag. But it's funny, as I said, Baz and Dacos will be fine, but Dawson, Butters are probably going to get attention along with Heaney and Bont. So it's probably got to kick two. I don't want all four of them in my side when I expect all four to get attention. I expect Neil to be good. I expect Walsh to get it done. I don't think Merritt will get tagged, so that's probably why he's in there. And he's only had one sub-ton for about probably 8 weeks. So he's been really consistent, really good, and he's got the ceiling. So, but yeah, that's currently where I've landed there. So a lot of similarities right there. And if Newman comes in, he probably replaces Amon, I think.
I think so. I was just pulling up as well, like Carl Amon, because he was one that we spoke about last week. Looked at him this week, in prep for the show. He was a name that stood out. It was Sicily off the back of last week, and his recent scores against the Bulldogs, it's his best matchup for career to date. He's hit really good scores against them, those ceiling scores. But a Carl Amon up against the Doggies, he has had, across his season, he's had 103, 93, 109, 85 in his last 4 against the Dogs.
Yeah.
So he's just that sort of player, tracking really well last week, got to 102, was a bit underwhelming. Does he have the ceiling? He's been able to hit 120s this year, but yeah, it's just one for me where there's a few others who have the ability, who are more likely to hit that ceiling score. And I'm not sure I love picking 2 Hawks personally, even though it's a really good matchup. But if we get a bit more carnage, who knows? I could go that way.
Yeah, so I'm unlikely to play both, but he just currently sits there just as we work through towards the southern end.
Yep. Very solid team, mate. Very solid team. Good bounce back team, that's for sure. Jordan Dawson, prize card.
Yes, yeah. Probably not he's in there obviously because he's the prize card, but obviously he's probably going to get attention. So I just expect the card to give me 120 as the multiplier and that or somewhere around there. And
salary of silver as well, isn't it? So that's
I'm not actually sure. Actually, it's something like that, or same salary as a gold, or something like that.
Yeah, which is incredible. From a strategic advantage, anyway. That's almost worth it.
He's I can't leave him out.
Yeah, back him in. He's unreal. He's one of my favourites in the comp as well. Now, mate, BroDown ShowDown. I got the win again, which was awesome. Took out the standard pod editions, so you can see on screen there. It was Haz. He had Carl Amon and I wanted Jake Bowie. So Haz got the win there. It was 2 apiece in the end. The other win he had was in the forward line. He went with your boy, Riley Sanders, and I had Connor Buderick with that halfback role against the Pies, and Riley Sanders came out on top.
Look how close it was.
Down
Look
there,
how close the matchup was. Besides Grundy, besides Warner that got you the win, Amon 102 to Bowie 95, Oliver 89 to Parrish 97, and then you got Sanders 114 to Buderick 112. Like, it's incredibly close. So it's a good showdown. You like to see it.
Yeah, I think the last few has gone even, like just sort of split and comes down to the highest scorer. So, yeah, it was me in the end that took out that win to get that lead out to 7-4. And I had 3 people who backed me in. So, can you see those names there on screen, Bales?
Yep, got them on the screen.
We've got Reese, Peter Quicksilver, and Maxi Hansen. So, we're going to spin this here. We've got our 9-player common pack, mate. And those boys will get, or one of them will get a row of that 9-player common pack, and it will be.
Right.
That's.
That's.
I thought that was going to be easy. That's close.
That is very. Hang on. I need to put this on the full screen there. That's on the line, isn't it?
That is as close as you can get. As close as you can get. I can't even.
Do both get like a row, or are we just going to do the winner there, Peter, who gets it? Because that's right.
Actually, you know what? I don't know why I just spun the wheel. Let's do that. Peter can have a row. Reese can have a row. Maxi Hansen can have a row. Let's give one to each of them, hey?
Oh, there you go.
Let's do that. Now I'll just quickly share.
That's the closest I've never seen it like that before. That's on the line. That's crazy.
I feel like there were some close ones in the women's when we did the women's season with Hoss. I feel like there were a couple really close ones there as well. Keen for the women's season too, by the way. What am I doing on the packs?
Yes, yeah.
Be good to get that up and running again. It's nice when we've got the men's and women's season running in tandem with a few, there's a few games, double headers that they'll be playing, I think.
And it'd be good to actually see some AFLW games at some actual football grounds for a change instead of like at the community. Like, I love the community grounds are great every now and again, but when they're every week and the wind and the elements play a factor all the time, whereas like play some games at Marvel, like under the roof,
100%. And how good's the standard too? Like the standard is unreal for women's footy. So I reckon, continue growing the game and get them at Marvel. And it's really good to see they've made a few of those changes. Let's see what we've got for the boys. So Peter Quicksilver and Maxi Hansen. So a row each. Let's start with Reese, mate. Do you want to give him top, middle, or bottom row?
I'll go top because he technically got the win. So I'll go the top row for Reese.
All right, top for Reese. What have we got?
So for Peter, is that what you said, Peter? Or was I doing Reese?
Oh, sorry. Let's go Peter. Peter goes top then because he's got the win. So let's go. So that's 2 silvers and a gold. Let's see what Peter's got here. So first silver is a steel side bottom. And then we have that might be Cal's card there as well.
Yeah.
And then a gold Isaac.
Oh, sorry, Peter. So, not a great
sorry, mate. But they are yours. Hit me up in Discord, mate. I can get those cards over to you. Now, do you want to go second row, so the middle rows for Reese, who would have been next closest to winning?
Yeah, all right, I reckon we'll do it like that, I reckon.
All right, 3 silvers there for Reese. So we've got a Job Shanahan. So he's under 22 eligible. Yep. That's a good card. Luke McDonald, that's Haz's favourite player. And then we have a Gota as well. Not the GOAT. We wanted the GOAT, not Gota from North Melbourne, unfortunately. So apologies there, Reese. But again, a Job Shanahan for 22s, mate. That's
now, could you imagine that Max gets like the All-Star? Oh no, I was going to say he gets the All-Star for not getting on the wheel, but then he
that would be something that Maxi Hansen would do too, because he gets around all the channels and he gets rewarded for it, and good on him for doing that. But there's actually no All-Stars left this season, so just keep that in mind.
Okay, yeah, right.
Which is a shame. So we've got a Henry Hustwaite, Christian Moraes as well, who's also one of the 22 eligible players, and a Dewar as well. So he's also eligible for under 22s, but not a great pack.
Eight of nine silvers, and not really any of them being really, really useful now. You can plug like a Job into 22s, but sorry, boys, not a great pack, unfortunately.
Yeah, apologies, but board get those cards off us because you never know what happens down the track. Except for a steel side bottom, he probably doesn't have too much of a track left, unfortunately. Good as he's been. Now, mate, BroDown ShowDown for next week. We're actually jumping into the community edition. We did a round against you. We did a round against the Supercoach Swordplay boys. We're going to go up against the GDS CEO, we like to call her, Mel's Misfits. And we're going to see who comes out on top. In terms of the players that we've picked, Mel has gone with a Jack Sinclair, a Zach Butters, a Luke Jackson in the ruck, and a Zach Bailey in the forward line. And then myself and Haz, we have decided to pick a James Sicily, a Sam Walsh, a Max Gawn, and a Jordan DeGoey. So it is, again, each position up against each position. So you've got Sinclair against Sicily, Butters against Walsh, Jackson against Gawn, Bailey against DeGoey. if it's 2-2 by the end, it's going to come down to the highest scoring player. So get your comments in the chat. Make sure you do before the weekend, and you'll go onto our wheel for next week if you've picked the correct winner. If you think it's going to be Mel, drop Mel's name in the chat now. Mel's Misfits. If you think Pitty, I hadn't even changed that. I apologize. I just saw that on screen there. If you think the Fantasy Bros are going to get up, make sure you drop Fantasy Bros in there too. Okay, and we'll see who comes out on top. Bails, if you're looking at those, who are you liking so far? Because it is pretty tricky.
I think I'd tend towards Fantasy Bros for this week, but Sinclair, Butters, Jackson, and Bailey have got the ceiling, right? So if it's a draw, there's some ceiling opportunity there for Mel. I think you guys just edge it though, but it's going to be an interesting one.
It's always the good thing about the showdown. You never quite know how it's going to go. There's been times where it comes to Saturday night, and Haz will send me a message and he'll be saying, "Oh, congrats, mate! You've got another win in the showdown. I can't do anything." And then it comes down to the Sunday, and the last player he's got just absolutely dominates. So you just never know right until the end. So we'll see. And Maxi Hanson's jumped in the chat. Pitty, aka Pros. I completely forgot to change that last little detail. So apologies there. Thanks, Max Hanson. And again, we appreciate all your support, mate. And same for everyone else as well. We really appreciate that. Michael Cossey is jumping on board and saying Mel's. He reckons Mel's is going to get the win in the showdown. And as I said, some great players that she's picked too for sure. And then obviously finishing up, just make sure you've subscribed to socials, use that code on screen, get your packs. If you haven't got started in your Game Day Squad journey, make sure you do so. As we mentioned, Women's Aussie Rules will be kicking off soon. EPL's finished up. Cricket's going all the time, it seems like. There's so many sports to get involved in, not just Aussie Rules. And of course, we've got NRL too. We've got Dylan Stew with the league side of things over there, so you can go check them out. There's heaps of stuff on Game Day Squad. And Bails, mate, thanks so much for your time. We always appreciate you coming on, and all your insights as well. It's very handy to have.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate that. Long one tonight, hour and a half. So it's a big show, but I hope you guys enjoyed all the chat. But mate, thanks for having me on. Always glad to jump on and chat some GDS with you, mate. So good luck for everyone in round 13.
Always good. And good luck to everyone else. Good luck to you, mate. And just heads up for next week, round 14. We're going to be coming to you on a Tuesday night from now on. A slight change we've made there, Haz and I. We're going to try and make sure we're recording together moving forward. As I said, I feel a bit bad calling on you every single week, mate, and getting you on board. So we're going to see how this goes.
Always happy to help out.
Yeah, no, we love having you on, mate. And as I said there, so they'll be dropping next Wednesday, 10th of June for that round 14 preview. Good luck, everyone, for round 13. Bye.